Sadie's learning early. As soon as a rabbi starts to talk, get out.
I was just about to tell her not to take it personally.
No. You know, it's interesting. Sadie's Hebrew name is Ora, which means light. And Rabbi Joseph Telushkin used to tell the story that his mother, every time she had a new child, would add one candle every Friday night. And the lesson that she taught from that was that each time a new child was brought into the world, there was just a little more light. And so it's beautiful that Sadie's name is Ora, and that she was with us for a few minutes. I personally was raised in a generation of children should be seen and not heard. But that's not the way we function here at GHC. So there's a moment that every parent knows. It's when their child falls down, they scrape their knee raw. You scoop them up, you kiss the wound, you place a Band-Aid with ceremonial seriousness, and somehow, almost magically, the pain recedes. Not because the injury is gone, but because love has the power to soothe. Until one day when it doesn't. One day the pain is too deep, the wound is not on the skin, and no kiss, no words, no presence can make it go away. And in that moment, parents learn something that's unbearable. Love does not always give us power. Love does not always give us power. You can be fully present. You can care with every fiber of your being and still be utterly impotent. The feeling's not only parental, it's human. And it sits at the very heart of this morning's Parashat, this morning's Torah reading. Moses comes to Israel with the most radical promise in history. Redemption, freedom, dignity, a future. And the Torah records something devastating. Not rejection, not rebellion, but incapacity. The verse in the Hebrew writes, V'lo shamu el Moshe mikotze ruach u'me'avodah kasha. They didn't listen to Moses. I would translate it, maybe even they couldn't listen to Moses because of the shortness of spirit and the hard labor. Before Pharaoh's heart hardens, the people are already suffering by a hardening of spirit. Rashi offers us this incredible insight. Rashi teaches that pain shrinks the world. Rashi explains in beautiful compassion, Mikotze ruach kol mi shehaya mitzuar ein rucho rechava lekabel tachnunim. That sometimes the pain, the suffering is so deep, you can't even accept people's compassion. You can't even accept people's consolation. The pain is so strong. Rashi doesn't say they lack faith. He says they lacked space. Trauma compresses the human soul. It collapses time to the present moment. It makes hope feel false and sometimes even impossible. This is why words sometimes, often fail in the face of deep suffering. Not because they're wrong, but because there's just nowhere for those words to land. The Svat Emet says something even more extraordinary, Mikotze ruach, on this verse that the Jewish people suffered from this shortening of breath. Shenitzera haruchanit shebe'adam merov hashib'ud. Shortness of spirit, he says, because their spiritual capacity was constricted by the weight of oppression. Redemption cannot enter until the spirit is widened. Mikotza ruach, the shrinking of our ability to breathe, doesn't allow us to take in a breath of redemption. Freedom, the Sfat Emet teaches, does not begin with escape. It begins with the breath. Before God can change history, God must restore the human capacity to imagine a future. There's a question we rarely ask. If God understands the trauma of the Jewish people so deeply, then we have to ask an extremely troubling question. Why not simply take the Jewish people out earlier? God has the ability, we think, to do anything. Omnipotent is God. Couldn't God have lifted the people out of Egypt miraculously, without plagues, without spectacle, without prolonged suffering? Why the slow, brutal dismantling of Egypt? Why the 10 plagues? And here we must tread carefully but honestly. We often assume that empathy, feeling another's pain as our own, is the highest moral virtue. But empathy has a shadow. When we're too close to the suffering, we can lose our ability to act wisely. We become reactive instead of strategic. We seek vengeance instead of relief. Sometimes sympathy, care with distance, is really the more ethical stance. Empathy says, I feel your pain. Sympathy says, I see your pain and I'm going to act to lessen it. Empathy can paralyze. Sympathy can mobilize. You know that feeling when your child is hurt and you feel so much of what they're feeling, you can't even act yourself. What if the Torah is hinting at something unsettling? What if what the Torah is saying about the nature is God, that God is so intertwined with the destiny of the Jewish people, God only thinks about vengeance in that moment, not out of cruelty, but out of proximity? What happens when pain becomes the lens through which justice is pursued? Even God, the Torah suggests, works through this process. Through measured distance, through time. The plagues are not only punishments, they are a slow creation of moral space. When suffering is all we can see, we begin to crave not healing, but reckoning. We want the pain to mean something. We want someone else to feel it too. But vengeance doesn't widen the soul, it hardens it. The Torah delays redemption not to prolong suffering, but to prevent Israel from being redeemed into rage. Freedom that is born only from pain becomes brittle. A people liberated only through vengeance risks becoming what they have escaped. Moses speaks too soon. Not because he's wrong, but because people cannot hear yet the words that are shaped by pain. And God allows that failure to remain in the Torah forever. Because the Torah refuses to shame those whose spirits are too narrow for hope. We know, each and every one of us, the feeling of kotzer ruach, of having our breath taken away, not in beauty, but in pain. We've watched children suffer in ways that no Band-Aid can touch. We've watched grief calcify hearts. We have felt temptation to answer pain with punishment. And the Torah whispers back to us, be careful what you seek. Relief is holy. Justice is necessary. But vengeance, even when understandable, shrinks the soul. And so I offer this closing blessing. May we learn when to draw close and when to step back. May we cultivate sympathy that heals, not empathy that consumes. May we widen another's spirit, not by demanding hope, but by creating space for breath. And when the one who heard Israel's cry teach us how to elevate suffering without becoming enslaved to it. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish, page 184. Please rise.